Hey, I'm Pat Porter, broker for RecLand Realty. Here we talk about the rural real estate business and ideas and information to help you better manage and enjoy your own property. I want to talk to you about 4 different offers that I got this past week on different properties, how they were handled, and what you and I can learn from that as buyers and sellers. The first offer I got was a reasonable offer. It was about $600 an acre lower than the asking price on this tract. I gave the offer to the sellers. He called me back in about 30 minutes and he had made a counter offer and a reasonable counter offer, and called the buyer back and told him the counter, and he called me back the next morning and he said, hey, counter him back at this number, and it was a little bit closer. And so I called the owner back and said, hey, he countered your counter at X, and the guy thought about it a minute and he goes, well, man, we're so close and I'm ready to get that property sold. That's a fair number for me, obviously a fair number for him, so let's do the deal, Pat. So signed it up. Easy deal with an offer, a counter, and then a counter, and then an acceptance. Same day, I get an offer on a 40-acre tract. Call the seller and give her the offer, and I get fussed at from top to bottom. I had to calm her down and say, ma'am, I'm just a messenger here. All I'm doing is presenting an offer to you, legitimate offer from a legitimate buyer. And that's just my job. I don't decide if the offer is good or bad. I don't decide if it's something you ought to take or not. I'm just presenting offers to you as I'm supposed to by law. And she went on and on about how she could not accept that offer. It wasn't enough, and this, that, and the other. Just left it at that. I mean, didn't make a counter, didn't do anything but fuss at me for bringing the offer to her that wasn't what she wanted. That was offer number 2. Offer number 3 was on a tract. It's a little over 200 acres in a different state. Gentleman made a real fair offer. I got with the sellers and we gave a counter offer, shot it back to the buyer, and he accepted it. It was just a reasonable offer, reasonable counter, and the gentleman accepted the counter offer. Done deal. Sent out the paperwork, got the contract back, signed up from everybody in probably 4 or 5 hours, so easy button. Got another offer, may have been the same day or the next morning, I can't remember, my days are running together now. A little over 100 acres, gentleman made a real good offer, about $300 an acre less than the asking price. Called the sellers with it, and he countered back immediately and said, hey, Pat, no, tell him I'll take this, and this is kind of my low number. It was a reasonable counter, just a little bit below his asking price, a little bit above what the other guy was offering. And so I communicated that to the buyer. He said, let me just think about it overnight. Called me early the next morning. He said, Pat, we'll just take that deal. Let's do it. We'll just accept his counter and let's move on. Got the contract signed up in a matter of an hour on that one. So anyway, 4 offers, 4 different maneuverings, and a few different results. Things that we can learn from that, honestly, the takeaways from it are pretty obvious. Number 1, when you make an offer on a property, think it through. Decide what you want to pay for the property, and then offer somewhere a little bit less to give yourself some wiggle room, to give yourself some maneuvering, knowing that there's likely going to be a counter. And it gives you the opportunity to kind of go back and forth a little bit and hopefully hit your sweet spot. So that's something you can think about when you're making an offer, is make a reasonable offer with a plan. Don't put your best foot forward, but don't throw some ridiculously low number that just turns anybody off. Number 2, if you're the seller, I encourage you to make a counter offer. Always make a counter offer. 3 of these deals got signed up because the sellers made counters and gave the buyers an opportunity to respond. The 4th deal never had a chance. It was dead on arrival because the lady, she wouldn't even make a counter offer. Now, she didn't want to accept the original offer. Okay, say no thank you, but I'll take X for it. Make a counter. And it could be a small counter, big counter, whatever counter you want to make, but make a counter to show that you're wanting to try to make a deal. And the buyer may not come up to it, might not even come up close, but at least you're trying, you're working to make a deal. The other takeaway is don't fuss at the real estate broker. The agent's job is to bring you an offer. Now, if somebody presents a valid offer, by law, they need to present that to you. Whether they know you're going to like it or not, it's not their job to decide. It's their job to present. Don't get irritated at your broker or agent because they bring you an offer you don't like. It's not their offer. They didn't make it up. They're just presenting it to you by law. You're going to want them to do that. The last thing you want is some real estate agent making your decisions. You didn't empower them to do that. You put your property in their hands to market and sell and to bring you offers. When they bring you an offer, hey, deal with it. Make a counter. Do something to try to make something work. And the last thing I'll tell you that's a decent takeaway is when you make an offer and the buyer makes a counter, think about that. Try to move toward that a little bit. And if it's within your plan, within your circle, within the number you're trying to make work, hey, make the deal. It's okay to go back and forth several times to get a deal. It's all right. But when you get close, when you get really close, and it's a fair deal for you and the seller's doing all he can, sign it up, make the deal. When people have gone back and forth several times and you get down to the last few dollars of a deal, do your best to push it together. Ask the real estate agent, does he have any wiggle room in his commission to help squeeze that last little bit together? Now, I know some of you real estate agents are going, Pat, why in the world would you say that? Well, it's just reasonable. Don't miss a deal over a few dollars. If you're the real estate agent, you can help push a deal together right at the very end. Hey, I'm all for that. A percentage of a deal is a whole lot better than full commission with no deal. So anyway, when you're making offers, when you're selling property, do your best to try to keep the deal moving. Sometimes good things happen. Thanks for watching our videos. There's some more right there. Check them out.